quite a nice view over here. I've not been down this part of Gloucestershire before, and it looks like this is some kind of wildlife reserve as well. Yeah, that'd be a nice little walk to go down one day. Hate this gravelly stuff. Trying to walk a motorcycle back is so sketchy on this stuff. So in today's video, everyone, we're going to be answering the age-old question: are manual motorcycles harder to ride than automatics? Now, if you've been looking at bikes in any way, shape or form, then you would have noticed that the vast majority of them are manuals. And I don't know why that is. I mean, I don't know why that is the case. However, there are some select motorcycles out there that are automatics. You can find them. And where we seem to be going into this future of electric bikes, electric motorcycles, then, well, it's probably more likely than ever in the next 10 years that the vast majority of us will be riding an automatic motorcycle of some kind. I know a lot of motorcycle purists out there and people like myself, we like manuals. Manual motorcycles are the best way to experience a motorcycle, simple as that. But there are lots of people out there that drive automatic cars, and they find the idea of operating gears in a clutch quite daunting and quite intimidating. And, well, it is an extra complication to the process of riding a motorcycle. But once you get it, it'll become second nature. It won't be something that you'll have to worry about so much. However, if you are getting into riding two-wheeled vehicles and you're trying to learn, you're trying to understand what it's like, see if it's actually for you, then of course you can start off on something like a scooter. I mean, there are manual scooters out there, but kind of in the opposite manner to motorcycles, the vast majority of scooters are fully automatic with CVT transmissions, and they are just twist and go. So if you want that experience, go ahead and test it out on a CVT or something like that. Have a go on a scooter and see if it's for you. And honestly, going from a scooter to a full-on motorcycle isn't really as big of a step as you might think. There's a police sign there saying police slow down. There's no police there. So what is it that makes a manual motorcycle harder to ride than an automatic? To be honest with you, motorcycle transmissions are really simple devices. Gears go down and they go up. It's not like in a car where you've got a stick and you manually choose which gear you want. Motorcycles have what's known as sequential gearboxes, so you have to go up or down the gears. So you know that your next press down on the gear lever is going to take you down a gear, the next click up on a gear lever is going to take you up a gear. And for the most part, you don't actually have to know or worry what gear you're in, because the gear is determined by the speed that you're doing. There are lots of riders out there that kind of get a little bit flustered by the fact that a lot of motorcycles don't have a gear indicator. I started off riding motorcycles without a gear indicator. Yeah, it's a little bit handier when you're learning to ride a bike, but honestly, it is totally not necessary. Because, for example, if you're doing 40 mile an hour, I'm in 6th gear right now. If you're doing 40 mile an hour, then you can probably be in 6th or 5th gear or even 4th gear on a motorcycle. Whereas if you're doing less than 10 mile an hour, then you probably need to be in 1st gear. But that's the thing, you don't need to know about it, you don't need to worry about it, you don't need to know, because all you've got to do is keep going down through the gears until the revs are in a comfortable range. So something above 2,000 RPM. That is kind of like the comfortable range for a motorcycle. Most motorcycles redline at 11,000, 12,000 RPM or so. Cruisers will redline a little bit lower than that, but for the most part, if you're up and above 2,000 RPM on a motorcycle, in whatever gear you're in, then you're probably doing all right. And so that's what you have to just keep in mind, is what are the revs at? How does the motorcycle feel? Is it chugging along or is it nice and comfortable? Right, if a motorcycle is nice and comfortable, then when you twist the throttle back, it will be able to pick up speed nice and easy. It won't be like trying to accelerate. And if it is like that, then you know you're in too high a gear. Simple as that. Go down a gear. Go into 2nd, go into 1st. Right? great rule of thumb. If you're doing slower speeds under 20 mile an hour, the gears that you should be in are 1 and 2, right? When you go down to first gear, you can't go down any further on the gear lever. So you know for a fact that you are in first at that point. It's exactly the same way going in the opposite direction. When you get in 6th gear, you can't kick up the gear lever any further. So you know that the gear is all the way up in 6th gear. Everything else in between is determined by the speed that you're doing. So from that regard, it really doesn't matter. And once you get the hang of that, and believe me, it only takes a few months, even a few weeks for some people, to get the hang of how gearing works on a motorcycle, how a manual works. It becomes second nature. Honestly, it's not one of those things that you really think about after the first few weeks of riding a bike. It's like there are people out there that get really intimidated by clutch control, right? Clutch control is not a difficult thing. Let me demonstrate in a little bit how easy clutch control is on a motorcycle. And if you practice this, you won't have to worry about clutch control ever. But lots of people, they get it in their head about how difficult it is when it actually isn't as difficult as you're making it out to be. Alright, this is how easy clutch control is on a motorcycle. You're in first gear, you push it all the way down to the bottom. You don't even worry about the throttle. You just use the clutch nice and gently, and the bike will start riding itself. And then once it's in gear, look, the clutch is fully engaged. Once that's done, you just twist the throttle and away you go. And that's how easy clutch control is to learn. Once you've mastered that, being able to get a motorcycle to move on its own steam, then the rest of it is easy. And that's the thing, once you've got a little bit of experience behind you and you want to be able to get off the line quicker, then that's where you can start using a little bit of acceleration, a little bit of throttle to get you, and with that same technique, to get yourself off the line significantly quicker. Honestly, it's really simple and straightforward riding a motorcycle with a clutch and gears, because that's the only real difference between a manual motorcycle and automatic. But this lever and that lever down there operate the gears. That is it. That's the only difference that you have to worry about. And there's so much more on a motorcycle that you should be worrying about than a clutch and gears, if I'm being totally honest with you. Alright, so a lot of the time automatics are a little bit more convenient, okay? But as we've mentioned in a previous video, if you've got to do your test on any motorcycle, you do it on a manual, because then you have the choice, you have the option of riding a manual or an automatic, at least here in the UK. And so, you know, you might as well learn to ride on a manual. The vast majority, if not all learner motorcycles out there, or 125cc bikes here in the UK and Europe, are manuals. And that is the best way to ride a motorcycle. You are in far more control of the bike with a manual than you are in an automatic. It's far easier to control the speed that you're doing. It's much more sensitive to the throttle. You haven't got to wait for the engine to spool up a little bit to start pushing the bike forward. You can get immediate power. And I understand that if that's a choice that you want to make and you want to ride an automatic, then hey, by all means, go ahead and ride an automatic bike. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I know you might get, I don't know, you might get a little bit of ridicule from riders within the community about how manual's the only proper way to ride a bike, but it's a choice. Alright, if you prefer to ride automatics, then that is entirely up to you. But I would heavily recommend that you do all your tests and do all that, get your license on a manual, because then you have that choice, you have that option, and you never know, you might actually fall in love with manuals. And it's not a lot extra to think about. Honestly, once you start riding, you really don't have to worry so much about it. It might seem really daunting to begin with, it might seem really intimidating to begin with. It's not. Just give yourself the time to practice, give yourself the time to learn. That's what so many people aren't willing to give these days. You've got to give it a little bit of time, right? Yeah, you're going to be riding a motorcycle probably a little bit faster, a little bit more confidently on an automatic, because there's a little bit less to think about. But trust me, once you get to that point, you don't have anything to worry about. And it doesn't take long either, a good few weeks, and you'll be plenty happy enough with how a manual motorcycle operates. Seriously, it's really straightforward. If you want to see a video in the near future of why most motorcycles are manual, well, let me know down in the comment section. I'll do a little bit of research and I'll try and find out for you. I've only ever ridden manual motorcycles my entire life. The only time when I was riding an automatic motorcycle, so to speak, was my 50cc scooter when I was 16. And I only had that bike for a year. And after that, I got myself on a 125 because I was 17 at the time. Got myself on a 125 and started learning to ride a proper motorcycle. And I learned from scratch, all on my own, guys. I had no one to help me, no one in my immediate family, no friends, nothing like that to help me with learning to ride a motorcycle. I had to do it all myself. If I can do it, any of you can do it. Trust me. And I've not looked back. As soon as I started riding motorcycles, I never even considered an automatic, and to be honest with you, for the most part, I didn't even know that automatic motorcycles even existed until even just a good few years ago. I thought all of them are manuals. But anyway, there's my take on automatic motorcycles and how difficult a manual is to ride compared to them. And honestly, it's not really a comparison you can make, all right? Manuals are just as easy to ride as automatics in the vast majority of circumstances. You've just got to give yourself a little bit of time to practice, a little bit of time to learn how these motorcycles operate. Now remember, it's only two things you got to worry about. This lever right here for the clutch, that lever right here for the gears. That is it. All right. But anyway, everyone, thank you ever so much for joining me on today's ride. I'm about to shoot a video now on trying to bump start the ZZR1400. I've not been looking forward to this video for quite a while, but it's going to be quite a difficult one, I think. But yeah, anyway, thank you ever so much for watching this one. Take care, ride safe, leave a like, get subscribed, and we will catch you all in the next video. Have a good one.